Hello, avid readers, book nerds, or casual observers. Welcome to the Read Along brought to you by the Lit Roundtable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and today we are going over the last section of our reading for Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the first Dragonlance novel by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Awesome. Thank you.
We get to finish it off today.
We do. I do want to have like a little caveat at the beginning of this. So we have had quite a few people viewing these on YouTube, which is awesome. And we had someone leave a comment on not the last read along, but the one before that. So part 5, I believe.
Sure. We'll go with that.
And I can like see the comment in our notifications and read most of it, but when I click on it to go to it, it's not on the video anymore. So I don't know if the user deleted it, but it was a really helpful comment telling us where in the timeline the book falls. So if you left that comment, I'm sorry we didn't reply. Tried to, but it's not there anymore. So
Bummer.
I know.
Well, that's cool that we had some interaction, though.
I know. I'm sad it's gone. It was a really nice comment. So anyway,
no worries.
We very much read the comments because we don't get very many right now and like to respond to them. So if you have a comment, leave it and maybe we'll respond. We'll probably respond.
Yeah.
Unless you're just one of those trolls that leaves like a weird timestamp on the video, in which case I delete your comment. So don't even.
Happened?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Weird.
It's very weird. So don't do that.
What was the comment? I want to know where does this fall in the timeline of the Dragonlance novels?
Well, let me pull it up since I can't actually like get to it. It's kind of awkward. So give me just a second here.
Okay. So I will fill in the awkward silence with my own ramblings about. Well, first let's pour one out for a certain character that we lost during this section of the reading, which we'll get to. Pour one out for that person. Or are they gone?
I don't know.
This is fantasy, you know. So, let's see. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, technically 7 chapters for this one. And the first chapter was very short. The ones after that were a little longer. But I read these... I finished a couple days ago, and Anna just read all of these like yesterday. So yeah. She's going to be a little fresher on some of these than me, but that's okay. I remember a lot of the stuff at the end. And,
fair enough.
Yeah. So do you have it?
I do. Comment? Yeah, so the comment was from Fergus Fern, and they commented, "Love your videos. War of the Twins comes years after War of the Lance, though. Just thought you'd like to know. LOL."
So these are War of the Lance, I'm assuming? That's what these are?
They're the Dragonlance. I don't really know. But it was a very nice comment. And
I just now noticed that there's like a description of all the characters on the very first page of this.
Yeah.
That's neat. I did see the map. Okay, I knew there was a map at least.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. So let's go ahead. Thank you for the comment.
I know, isn't that sweet? And I was like...
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I wanted to reply, but when I click on it, it's not there. So.
We hope that you continue to read along with us with The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. It'll be a good time. So yeah, we'll try to notice the comments faster and respond faster. I hadn't seen that particularly some of the Lies of Loch Lamora ones had a lot of traffic, but I hadn't noticed any comments. But yeah, we'll try to be better.
I know. Well, I don't know where the comment went, which is the annoying part. I was like, oh, did it get lost in like YouTube land somewhere? So I tried to go in and like fix our comment rules, and that didn't make any difference. So
yeah, who knows? It's all good. But yeah, so leave a comment if you'd like. Otherwise, let's dive in. So the first chapter is chapter 10, The Royal Guard, The Chain Room. So this one was really short. It was only a couple pages, and it was basically just
I
the
mean,
group.
it was 8 pages.
Oh, am I thinking of a different one? Hold on. Oh, I thought that there was one that I found that was like, that was like 3 pages. Maybe I'm crazy.
No. This chapter 10 is definitely shorter than the others.
Maybe it's later on. I don't know. I'm crazy. But anyway, this chapter was basically just our group getting out of the cave system thing they're in.
Yeah.
That's like under the city. So basically, they find this big room with these big chains that are supposed to be part of like some defense mechanism for Taxtharcus, which we never really get a clear explanation of what this defense mechanism is.
Right. Like, and it's alluded to that it's like pretty significant that because later on something starts happening with it, but we're not ever shown what it is.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
So I wish we knew. Maybe it comes up in the later books, but there's some kind of crazy contraption under the city that's the defense mechanism. And there's a bunch of huge old chains, big chonker chains that are just hanging out under the city that are part of this mechanism. And it's really cool. So, but then they also find this other room. Raceland is freaking out, saying, "Don't go in there, you idiots! What are you doing?" And then
Gilthanas is like, "Yeah, no, it's fine."
In typical D&D fashion, they go in anyway, and we see a drow, which is a race in Dungeons and Dragons that hasn't come up yet. It's like a dark elf, and so, but this is like a ghostly, cursed, evil dark elf that's like gonna try to kill them, so they have to run away. But yeah, so they run away and they escape from the under the city part. They manage to get out and are actually in Paxtharcus, but then when they get out, they realize, oh no, we left Tass and Fizban behind. They're still stuck.
Yeah.
And the door's closed, and they can't like get out the same way they did. So.
Right. Yeah. So it was kind of a funny chapter because everyone, even the people that are normally pretty level-headed, were like panicking at one point or another about how they're going to get out, and then this dark elf and even Lorana is like pretty wigged out. We don't know her super well, but she's like very different now moving forward after this experience.
I think this was the realization of like, oh no, this is actually life or death.
For real.
I didn't realize when I started following them, but now I'm like, oh, I could die. It's a real possibility.
Yes, very real. Yeah, and poor Fizban and Tass are left alone, which is fine because the next chapter picks up with them right away, so we don't have to wait too long to figure out what their deal is.
Right, and they are two of my favorites to read, so I was like, oh yay, they get to just be together. This is like what everyone wanted.
Yeah, and they're so fun. The way they interact with each other is amazing.
Oh, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's the next chapter title?
The next is Chapter 11, Lost, the Plan, Betrayed. So we pick up the chapter with an airplane crash on an island in the Pacific. There's a smoke monster, there's a polar bear.
And they're all dead.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Wow.
For a show that ended how long ago?
Anyway, no, not really. So yeah, it picks up with Tass and Fizban being lost, trying to figure out how the heck they're supposed to escape and get to where they need to be. They do, after a lot of weird navigating and like climbing these big chains.
But they had like a little puffball light to lead the way.
They did. And Fizban is complaining about how this generation of puffballs is nothing like the old generation and they just don't have any respect nowadays. It's like,
well, because it gets like right in their face. And there's a couple times
funny.
where Tass is like, can we have it like not be right up in front for a little while? And this man's like, no can do. It does what it wants.
I like how the puffball kind of like became a member of the party.
It did. It did.
Anyway, yeah, so they managed to navigate their way around and eventually end up like straight up in the Dragon High Lord's like throne room. Like,
Yeah.
okay. They like, so there's like a path that can lead from outside the city directly to the throne room of the big bad evil guy. And I was like, that's a design flaw.
I guess I kind of interpret it as they were like in the ventilation system.
Yeah.
Which, you know, technically ventilation systems do lead outside at some point. But yeah, definitely a flaw in the design here.
Yeah, and we get to see them. They actually get to listen in on Dragon Lord Verminard, right? That's his name. The Dragon High Lord talk to Ember, his red dragon.
Also called
and
Pyros.
We see,
Ember and Pyros.
right, like Pyros is like his dragon name.
Which is what, like, whenever there's perspective from him, he's called Pyros. But only the Dragon Lord ever calls him Ember. It's a little confusing.
Yeah. But, yeah, we see Sestin, the gully dwarf that helped them out of the cages. He's like a prisoner now, and they're going to feed him to Ember.
Which Ember is not excited about, because he doesn't really like eating gully dwarf.
It's like when someone offers you like a celery stick, you know? It's like... Okay.
Thank you for the sustenance.
I guess.
Yeah.
The sustenance.
I didn't even mean that, but I love it.
Anyway. Yeah, so... But we see an interesting ability. I wasn't expecting them to do this with the dragon.
Oh, yeah.
The dragon can, like, turn into a human. I don't know if it's like a shape change thing or like a polymorph thing. If you're thinking in like D&D spell terms, I'm not sure what exactly he does, but yeah, he can just change shape into a human, and I guess it kind of makes it a little more convenient to interact with the character, you know. And it, like, he's suddenly very humanized. Like, oh, this is like a. It's because it's like hard to portray like the emotions of like a dragon, you know, but if it's in the form of a human, then suddenly you can kind of, there's more tools at your disposal. Like when the writers describe how he's like pacing back and forth in the human form, which is like a habit he picked up in the human form that he can't really do in the dragon form because he's so big.
Right.
So I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I don't think that's universal in like D&D lore. I don't think that's the thing that dragons can just do. I think that's kind of specific to these probably.
Well, none of the other dragons so far have done it. So it could just be like some bit of magic that this dragon has.
That's true.
For whatever
Maybe it's
reason.
just Ember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is literal personification. Except that he's not an inanimate object, but he's a non-human thing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought that was cleverly done. And I also had forgotten that. I had forgotten a lot of like this.
Just the first chunk?
Yeah. There's one part.
Oh, you mean like compared to the first time you read it? Mm-hmm. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one part that I like remembered very clearly, and when we got to that part I was like, oh yeah, sad day. Which we'll get to.
Yeah, pour one out.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do get to hear some of the plan. Ember, well, they're like just bring these prisoners in for the Dragon High Lord just to see what he wants to do with them. They bring this guy in. Ember kind of internally freaks. That's this chapter, right?
That's what I'm just looking. Because the plan part of this is actually Tanis and the others plotting with the humans.
Oh. I'm going to skip that bit. But the betrayal bit, I think, is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so we can backtrack a little bit. We just know that Tass and Fizban end up like listening in the Dragon High Lord's throne room.
Yeah. Yep. But before that, yeah, we see our like sad little band of people. And the most noticeable, blah, 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 blah. Wow.
Noticeable?
No.
Notice the.
The
What were you
most
gonna say?
notable thing for
Oh,
me in this was how upset Flint is that Tass got left
oh,
behind. He is
oh!
so upset.
I was so
I
sad.
know. And Tannis is like, I know, Flint, it sucks. And he's like, you don't understand. This is awful.
This is the worst thing. This ruined my day.
He's just so sad. The dwarf wiped his hand across his eyes, glared at Tanis, then whirled on his heel and stumped back to a corner where he hurled himself onto the floor, sulking.
So dramatic. It's like a teenager.
Oh, I know.
So what I was gonna say is they pretend to not like each other,
I know.
but they're like best friends, really. Though.
Yeah. Flint just loves him. Because he's so...
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Tanis goes on to, like, internally think about how Tass is just a little light for their group. Just keeps everyone cheery because he's not afraid of anything, and he's great.
He's important for like the emotional balance.
Yes. Yeah, especially since everyone else is Debbie Downer all the time.
Yeah, doom and gloom. Always worst case scenario.
For sure.
Especially Sturm. I feel like he's like the most Debbie Downer out of everyone.
He really is.
He's
Except
gotten-
for maybe
he-
Raceland. I mean, Raceland is like literally only thinking about death all the time.
Yeah, but he's consistent though.
Yeah.
We knew this from the beginning. Sturm, I thought. I mean, he's like just this honorable knight character, but I'm like, man, you've turned into quite the complainer. Like this whole
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, he really has.
Salami knights. Anyway,
So we've got more finger pointing than like people trying to blame Gilthanas or Eben or whatever. And the elves, of course, are like, no, Gilthanas is fine. And the humans are on Eben's side. It's very...
right? Because we should say they're like in a cell now with the prisoners. Right?
Yeah, yeah, which was confusing.
Like they managed to get
Are they there
into a
yet?
cell.
Maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they're just planning on getting into I don't know. If I'm being really honest,
You blitzed through these really.
I blitzed through them, but I was also like, I reread several chunks of it because I thought I had missed something because I did not understand what their plan was. And then suddenly they're with these other people, talking to these other people like they've known them forever. And I was like, hold on, what is going on?
Yeah.
So some of the like transitions between chapters was a little clunky here at the end.
Which maybe
A little rushed.
could be that I listened on audiobook and you read them really, really fast. So maybe we just didn't pick up on some things. But also it could just be that, I mean, maybe it just wasn't the best transitions.
Right. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I definitely struggled more with like understanding what we were supposed to be doing. Okay, so then we're back to like the dragon and
Right.
Tass and them overhearing.
So the party is sad that they're missing, and they are
Planning.
they're planning to get to where they can be with the prisoners and plan for this uprising with the prisoners. Okay, so now back to Tass and Flint. Not Flint, Tass and Fizban.
Yes.
The other F name. And they're listening in on the Dragon High Lord's chambers. And that's when we see Ember do the shape change or polymorph or whatever into a human. And they're bringing prisoners in. And one prisoner in particular, Ember has a reaction to, and we're like confused. Like he's gripping the table really hard and like death glaring this guy. And we're like, what? And then the Dragon High Lord is like, whatever, send him to the mine, I don't care. And Ember's like, you idiot. You are so dumb. But
Yeah. And
we don't really know why he's thinking that, though.
we know that, I think we know by this point that he has,
Do we know about his secret mission at this point?
yeah,
Had that been established?
I think so. Very
Well,
vaguely.
I remember-
It's not like
I think-
really established yet, but he's had some like thoughts.
I think it's explained like right after that. He like has that reaction, and then it's explained like his
I think it's right before.
or yeah, either way, it's like his mistress has commanded him to look for this one particular person,
The Everman.
and yeah, whatever that means. Do we ever get that explained to us? No.
No. Green
With the,
Gemstone Man, also known
yeah,
as Barum. So he's got
yeah,
3 things he might be referred to as.
right. Yeah. So this is apparently someone that Ember is looking for and really wants to find, and that's him.
But he's doing
And
this
then,
without Verminard's knowledge. Like, he's got his
right,
own objective outside of the High Dragon Lord.
right. I mean, they both serve their master, who is just like
The Queen of Darkness.
right, the Queen of Darkness, Mistress of Shadow,
Yeah.
whatever. And that's like who they serve, but they're both kind of serving themselves too, and they don't like they have a very tenuous alliance. It seems
Right. They don't really
like
like each other, but they tolerate each other.
right. So that happens. The prisoner goes away. Ember is already kind of scheming to get this guy, and then someone walks in who we don't know, but we know is a part of our adventuring group.
No, this is so Ember. So the Lord Verminard leaves. Ember's just like chilling, and a Draconian comes, and he's like, "What do you want?"
Oh, right. So
And
okay,
he's
so
like, "The trader's been successful." And he's like, "Okay, bring him in." Oh yeah. So he says, he's telling the Draconian, I have to meet with the trader, so bring him to my lair tonight." So
oh, okay, okay. So that is later. Okay,
yeah, yep. Sorry.
okay. But either way, we still
Shouldn't.
know this was the first confirmation that there's a traitor amongst them because the bad guys said it. So now we know.
Yep.
And moving on to chapter 12, the parable of the gem. Traitor revealed. Not really. Tass's dilemma. So
Yeah.
this one is the one that takes place in the dragon's lair. And I think the beginning of this one with the parable of the gem is where we kind of get explained more in detail with Ember or Pyros's secret mission from the Queen of Darkness, right? Is that what they're talking about?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, rip.
Because the first part of this chapter, they're with the slaves, and they're all like getting dressed as like women, so they can blend in with the women to go get to the children.
Okay.
And that's when Merida, this character that we have not met, but it seems like we know her, but we don't. She is telling them all about Flamestrike, who's the old dragon that's guarding the children.
I like her.
I do too.
I like Flamestrike.
And she's like, she's really lovely, and she just really loves the kids and just wants them to be safe. Like, she doesn't really do anything except take care of the kids. So she's like a big old nurse maid of a dragon. So like while they're getting dressed up as and pretending to be women, they're like, the slave women are like, you should shave your faces.
Storm's like, no!
Never. And then we find out that Riverwind and the barbarians have some deep-seated misogyny, which shouldn't really be surprised by, but he's like deeply offended by having to dress up like a woman and won't do it. So they have given him a staff to lean on and just a big robe so he can like hunch over and try to be inconspicuous. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then from there, we're back with Fizban and Tass, and they come across, like they're in the throne room, and this is where they see, like, the art gallery. And this is what I think might be what they're alluding to with the parable of the gem, is that he sees the painting of the Knights of
Salami. The Solamnic Knights.
Yes. And there's like dragons with knights on them. So there's like gold and silver dragons, and then there's red and what's the other color?
Black, probably.
Maybe.
Since there was a black dragon in
Yeah.
Zaxxaroth.
The point is that there's like good dragons and there's bad dragons in this painting, clearly. And there's a dragon lance. And then Fizban's like, yeah, you understand, you know the answer, and you'll remember, but not now. And he, like, makes him forget.
Oh, right.
And then Tass is like, dragons, oh yeah, what was I saying? And then he, like, wanders off.
Modify memory.
Yes.
That's a spell. That's a D&D spell that he totally just did.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so I wonder if that's... Although
And
there's no mention of a gem. I'm looking at it right now, and there's nothing about...
But this is when... What?
I found the parable of the gem.
Oh, what is it? What's the parable of the gem?
It's actually Gold Moon. So she's talking to a dying man. And she's like, when you realize the gem is lost, you are afraid to go back into the woods and search for it. Then someone comes along with another gem. Deep in your heart, you know it is not as valuable as the one you lost. But you are still too frightened to go back to look for the other. Now, does this mean the gem has left the forest, or is it still lying there shining brightly beneath the leaves waiting for you to return?
Right. So the parable of the gem is you were so focused on how the gods abandoned you when maybe you should have been focused on trying to like find them again instead of being like, oh, they left us, when will they come back? It's like you put in some actual effort.
Right.
You know.
So in this parable, the gem is the gods.
Right.
The humans abandoned them.
Right. Or lost them.
Or lost, yeah, whatever. So that's the parable of the gem. Courtesy of Gold Moon talking to a dying man who doesn't end up dying because he comes back later.
Right, because she heals him.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was a long way to get
honest.
there, but we got there.
I'll be totally honest. I definitely zoned out more for the main group sections because I was just so invested in Tass and Fizban's story.
100% agree. It's just like when you're reading the Two Towers and you're reading the Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli stuff, and then you get to book 4 and you have to go all Sam and Frodo all the time, and you're like...
And it's just a slog.
I do not care.
Ugh.
I mean, I do care, but... Ugh.
No, I totally relate. That's kind of what's happening now.
Yes.
I just wanted to get more Fizban and Tass, and that's honestly what I remember the most out of the last chunk of this book is the Fizban and Tass stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
that parable of the gem is kind of a I'm going to call it a red herring, because in the last chapter you had the bit about the gemstone man, and then you think, oh, the parable of the gem, it'll be about the gemstone man. Totally not. Unless he's a god.
There's, the gemstone that does. She has it's a talisman thing, right? That she has Gold Moon, and she had the staff with the blue gem in it. So maybe this gem is representative of a different god who is also in opposition of the Queen of Darkness.
Oh, interesting.
And this guy is like the Gold Moon equivalent of this other ancient god. That's my theory.
I like it.
And he'll probably be main character in the next book.
Maybe.
So, anyway, then we get back to the good stuff, which is Fizban and Tass. So they're in the dragon's lair, and the traitor actually comes in to report in with the dragon and spills the beans on their mission to incite rebellion with the slaves. And Ember's like not really concerned about it at all.
No.
He's like, who cares? Because he just cares about the red, or not the red. He just cares about the green gem guy, the gemstone man.
Yeah, he's like, I know there's another cleric. We'll get rid of her. It's fine. Whatever.
Right. Afterthought. Yeah. But I think he does eventually land on telling Verminard about it, right? Because Verminard does find out about it eventually, but it's like not right away, and Verminard's mad about it later.
Yeah.
He wasn't told right away. So I think Ember's just like, I'll tell him eventually. But for now, it's not revealed who the traitor is. They speak, they pull their hood back, Tass is like, and Fizban has to like cover his mouth. Mm-hmm. And so Tass knows who it is, but we don't get to know. And I was annoyed when I was reading this, or listening to this rather, because I wanted to know who it was. And characters, it's like they flipped it, because normally we know things the characters don't know, but this time characters knew things that we didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
And it was weird.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, I guess clever, but
Yeah.
also weird. I wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
So Tass is aware of who the traitor is. And then let's see.
But he's like, well, so this chapter ends with,
Tass's dilemma.
well, his dilemma is that he decides, like, Tanis and Sturm and Gold Moon, they've got the other stuff figured out. We're going to go save Seston.
Right.
That's all he cares about, is saving his gully dwarf friend.
I loved they kind of had a Gandalf and Frodo moment.
Oh, they did.
Because Tass is trying to decide what he's going to do with this information now. And Fizban is just kind of there. But and he's like kind of being a counselor, camp counselor about it. And he's like just asking questions and like waiting for Tass to land on the right answer. But we get to hear a little bit about Tass's dad and how his dad would say that like we're little because we're supposed to do little things, but like all the little things can turn into big things. And that dragon down there is nothing but a bunch of like little tiny drops of blood. And so
and it's the small things that make the difference, yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh, Frodo Gandalf moment.
Oh, for sure. Yes, very much a moment harkening back to the Mines of Moria.
Yeah. And they're like in a creepy, cavey thing too. So
yes.
Yeah, it was fitting.
Yep.
So that was nice. I loved that. And then, Tass just, like you said, just decides, oh, they've got it. I'm going to rescue my buddy Gully Dwarf. So that's what they land on. And then we go to chapter 13, which is Questions, No Answers. Fizban's Hat. Okay, so I remember Fizban's hat.
Yeah, so that happens at the very end of the chapter.
Right. So for Questions, No Answers, is that back to our normal adventuring group?
Yeah, and they're trying to figure out who the traitor is again. Right. And they're like, where did you go? Where did you go? I don't know. Where did you go?
Oh, right. And Evan's like, I choked out a Draconian who was spying on us.
Yeah. And Gilthanas is like, I came back to check on Raistlin and he wasn't here. And they're all like, Raistlin? He goes, why would I talk to you? You're not going to believe me. So he doesn't even try to defend himself. He's just like, whatever.
Which honestly, respect.
Because he's right. Nothing he says is going to make Sturm believe him anymore. And I don't think Tanis really suspects Raistlin anyway.
No.
So he's like, I'm not going to engage in this conversation, guys. This is dumb.
I didn't think that it was Raistlin.
I never did.
I also, like, in entertaining the thought, I was like, that would be I feel like that would have been the more interesting answer, because Gilthanas, I don't really care about, and Evan just got there. I mean, I suspected Evan the most, because it was really convenient how he was there and alive in that clearing earlier. And also, ever since he showed up, well, I guess Sturm and Caramon both suspected Gilthanas before he showed up, but then he showed up, and then things really got like kicked into gear as far as like accusations, like him being openly critical of Gilthanas, and just it seemed too obvious to me. I was like, Gilthanas is the red herring, and you're the real bad guy, I bet. But we don't know that yet. We don't know who it is.
We do have kind of a funny moment where Tanis was like, okay, we're going to do double watches all night, but not you, Evan.
Yeah.
The rest of us will handle this, not you.
Yeah. No one likes you. Sticks his tongue out. So they can't figure out who the traitor is. And so they're still just hanging out, but I think they decide to go and, like, do they have kind of the plan more solidly? Because in the next chapter is when they go see Matafleur, which is Firestrike, the old lady dragon, and the kids and stuff. So, like, I think they're going to be heading that way to try to free the children.
Yeah, which I think that was actually established in the last chapter.
So, like, they're going to go in while she's asleep and try to get the kids. So that's where they pick up next time. Yep. But we do get to cut back to Tass and Fizban. So
yeah, this is fun.
You know, the part that everyone wants to get back to. So they're listening to the dragon.
Well, actually, that part's past, and Tass wakes up and he's like, oh no,
Oh, you're right.
we were gonna, oh no.
He was so mad. It's like when you accidentally fall asleep on the couch and wake up at 3 a.m.
Yes, exactly like that. Except that someone's life hangs in the balance.
Yeah. You're like, oh, we were gonna rescue Seston.
Yeah. So he wakes up Fizban and he's like, we were gonna stay awake. What happened to the puffball? And Fizban's like, if it's keeping me awake, I put it out.
So funny.
And he's like, well, what's the plan? And Fizban goes, I don't know, what is the plan? And Tass is like, it was your idea. You wouldn't tell me what it was. What are we doing?
Oh.
It's so funny.
Was it a good plan? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. I love them so much.
Fizban does eventually like kind of remember. And he attempts to lift Seston
Like cast levitate
out of the pit or whatever. They're like on a balcony overlooking the dragon's lair.
Yeah.
The dragon and Seston are both asleep. And instead of lifting Seston, he accidentally starts to levitate the dragon. And Tass has to stop him. So then he puts the dragon back down and tries again, and this time successfully lifts Seston. And just as they're getting Seston over the balcony and like waking him up, Verminard comes in and wakes up.
He's like, Ember, what do you... The cleric is here. She's here.
Why are you sleeping? Yeah.
Why didn't you... And then is that when Ember spills the beans about like the plan to incite the prisoners in a rebellion? Is that when he finds out?
No, because he just walks in and he says, Ember, awaken. I have received reports of intruders. And then they both look up and Fizban's hat is just like falling. And then it cuts away back to Tanis and group.
Annoyingly.
Yes.
So basically it was just, there's intruders. We know there's intruders. We got to deal with this. And he's like, oh, fine. And then Fizban's hat. Okay. So then we cut back to Tanis and company. Yep. Which is just, is that like next chapter? Or is it?
Still in this chapter. They're just getting ready. They're like talking about who's going to guard who. Laurana and Tika are staying with the women to guard them. Again, making me wonder why the elves gave Tika the dead elf queen's armor, because even Laurana's like, Tika doesn't know what she's doing, but I know what I'm doing. I'm a trained fighter.
It's almost like Laurana should have had the armor.
Yeah. Tanis is like trying to comfort her, and she's like, I don't need to be comforted. She's being kind of a stick in the mud. And then like after he walks away, she's like, oh, maybe he needed to be comforted. They're kind of annoying. And now, like as an adult reading it, I'm like, that kind of drove me crazy. I remember being like very team Laurana and Tanis as a younger person, but right now.
Well, yeah, because you hadn't met the other girl yet.
Right. But now I'm just like, ugh, you guys are being kind of dumb.
The only relationship that I supported in this whole book was Raceland and his herbal mixtures. That's like the only...
And his what?
In his herbal mixtures to help his cough.
Okay.
Or Tass and his maps. That's like there was no like romantic relationship that I found particularly compelling, because even Goldmoon and Riverwind are really annoying. Agreed. For a lot of this book. Yeah. They finally figured it out right at the end. Yeah. And they have a cute wedding. Yes. But like,
you don't support Tika and Karaman.
They're not even in a relationship yet.
No, I mean, they're just like heavy flirting.
Yeah, and like making out
and
after
heavy
they
petting.
Like, after they murder things, which is weird. And also like,
it's true though.
Fur-lined underwear. Great.
Well, she's not for you. That's fine.
I needed to know that.
It is a very weird detail. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
So anyway, all that to say, Laurana should have had the Elf Queen's armor.
Yes. Yes.
Especially later on when there's actual fighting happening. But we'll get there.
So then they actually get up into the like playroom area where Flamestrike is like chilling. And Merida is once again like sad about her. Yeah. Like, don't hurt her. So they're like They get to where the playroom would be, and there's a draconian there, and they're all like, "Oh, there's not normally a guard here." So like they know that something's up, and Tanis is like, "Yeah, we've been betrayed, but I don't know who did it, and we're this far in. We just got to keep going."
Yeah.
So they kill the draconians that are guarding, and they go on into where the dragon's at, and then it cuts back to Tass and Fizban, where the hat is falling.
The hat is falling, and the bad guys are like, "What?"
Yeah. And Verminard is like, "Capture them," and Pyros is like, "No, have to kill them because they know things that you can't know."
Yeah.
Because he realizes that they have been witness to like his whole shenanigans. So they get chased by a dragon, and Fizban does some kind of like cool magic where he like makes everything dark, and then something else that like makes them impervious to flames as they're running, because they should all be ashes.
Right.
Several times over.
Like they get Seston out, and that's all very well and good.
Yeah.
And then Ember just starts trying to roast them. They eventually manage to get back down into whatever
the mechanism.
Yeah,
room,
they're back in like the defense mechanism
where
room.
the chains are. Basically.
Yeah. So they run away from the dragon all the way to that area, and the dragon is like smashing through stone walls and stuff like it's nothing.
Which Tass didn't anticipate. He was like, "We got through these doors," and he shut the door and was like, and then he busts through the wall.
And then smashed like the Kool-Aid Man. But yeah, Fizban does get some really awesome magical moments.
He does.
With the fire resistance and all that. He has some really cool moments.
And Tass is like, "How are you doing that?" And he goes, "I don't really know."
Yeah. I'm just a crazy old wizard. I don't remember anything.
Yep.
Except I do. Only when it's most important.
And I can do it without actually speaking. Like some spells he's doing without actually saying anything out loud. It's clearly very powerful.
I think that's the thing. That's the thing with D&D spells. Sometimes there are some spells that you don't need a verbal component for that you can like make a kinetic like hand motion for, and you need like spell components to do them. So it just kind of depends on the spell. So, yeah, that's just a thing for D&D. But
I think that Fizban is just more than we think he is, and that's why he can do spells without speaking. Because he's not really doing anything with his hands either. And then they're in like the mechanism room with the chains, and they're gonna try and start crawling down the chains, and the dragon is like tries to blow fire on them again, and again they're impervious to flame. And I love this. Fizban starts cackling because he's like,
yeah,
I'm beating a dragon. And then the dragon decides to melt the chains that they're holding on to, and they plummet.
Right. And the chains fall, and they fall, and the mechanism
starts
that
turning.
Is this defense mechanism starts turning, but we don't ever know why or what it does.
Even though it's mentioned here that it's turning, and then it's mentioned again that it's turning and turning and turning. Like it's building up to something, and we don't ever find out what. It's kind of annoying. I want to know. This book ended very abruptly, I felt. Because
it really did.
Because
there
suddenly
we'll
get to it.
Action.
I don't want to
because we're already
to the last chapter, right?
No, we still have
2 more chapters.
Madafleur, the Magic Sword, and White Feathers.
Yes.
So that cuts back to the Adventuring Company. And we get to see them trying to sneakily get the kids out of Madafleur or Flamestrike's lair, which they are trying to get the kids out, and the kids are super sad, like, "Oh, you better not hurt our dragon."
Yeah. Well, eventually,
it's just cute. It's just cute to see that the kids have like grown an attachment to this old dragon lady.
Yes, and
like,
she loves them. She clearly is very attached to them.
Well, we do know because of what that lady said that we're supposed to know. What's her name? M name.
Merida tells us about Madafleur.
Merida from Brave.
It's not spelled the same.
Yeah, she tells us that Madafleur thinks that the kids are actually her kids.
Yeah,
because
she lost her kids.
Yeah, all of her dragon babies died in
the Great Dragon War of the Dragon
Calamity. Yeah. All her dragon babies got killed.
Yeah.
By the Salami Knights, probably.
Yeah, probably. Well, or other dragons. I don't know.
By Huma, who was probably riding a dragon or something crazy. So, anyway, so that's sad. But as they're trying to get these kids out, Tanis starts. I was like,
there's
Tanis,
like this humming happening.
Are you like having an aura? Are you about to like have a migraine or something, Tanis?
Yeah, it's really weird. And then Raceland figures it out.
Yeah, he's like, pulls his cloak back, and his sword scabbard is like shaking. Yeah. And he pulls it out. It's like a Frodo and Sting moment of like,
for sure.
My sword's glowing blue. But he pulls it out, and it's like, isn't it lit up too?
It's vibrating
yeah, it's acting up. And they figured out, it's like an ancient elf sword, and it's because we're so close to a dragon. Like, this sword was made to slay dragons. And now it's in the same room as a dragon.
This is Wormslayer, the famed magical sword of Kith Canon.
Yeah, Wormslayer. Mm-hmm. Is it WYRM?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how you know it's a dragon and not an earthworm.
Yes, the blade began to shine with a brilliant white light as the buzzing
so
grew louder and angrier. Yeah, I had to read to find out if it glows. It does. It lights up.
I thought I remembered that. It's vibrating and glowing.
Yes.
And then Madafleur starts to stir, and she's like, ugh.
I can smell steel.
I sense something. A presence I've not felt since.
Yes. But she's like, she's scared. So she just like is like kind of backed into a corner. And Tanis is standing there with the sword like, this isn't what we had planned, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. And this is when the kids are like, don't kill our dragon!
Right, the kids almost revolt.
Yeah. Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Otherwise, the kids mind pretty well to like these random warriors telling them, we got to get out of here.
I thought it was interesting, though, that Madafleur had such a visceral reaction to the sword, and like the sword made a dragon cower in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was interesting to me. Granted, she's old, and like, if like dragons can have dementia, she has it. But
yes. But like, she's like, make sure that Eric doesn't catch cold if it starts raining, because one of the kids had a headache the day before or something, and she's like telling all the kids bye, and they're all saying goodbye to her, and
she's like, if Mary Poppins was a dragon.
Yeah, and then
it's very cute.
Once the kids are out, she's like, snaps out of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're stealing my kids, and then she tries to attack.
Mm-hmm. My children, not my children.
Yeah. But Raceland is able to cast a spell and make it dark so that he and Tanis can get out, essentially. So, which is good.
So they managed to escape from Flamestrike with the children, which is good. And then we get to go back to, this is where we pour one out.
I remember this part. This half a page, I remember, because it made me so sad.
Yeah. And it's just, it was so abrupt and like not, it was just so lame. Like, okay, they're falling, right?
They're falling,
and Fizban starts to say, feather fall, and then he hits the ground.
Yeah. And everything goes quiet.
He dies by fall damage. That's...
Mm-hmm. And Tass is like grieved, and then he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die too, whatever. And then it starts snowing. And then they realize that it's not actually snow, it's millions of feathers that pad his landing and Seston's landing.
So it's explained that like he only got halfway through the spell when he was trying to say featherfall, so all he got were the feathers.
Yeah.
And so the feathers at least saved his friends, but it's like, oh, that's so sad. You were so close. He was so close to getting the words out.
Yeah.
Those wizards, man, they're squishy though. Like, they have really low health points in D&D. Like, it doesn't take much to actually kill them.
Yeah. So I knew this moment was coming, and I just couldn't remember if it happened in this book or another book. And then once Fizban and Tass were separated, I was like, no, it's this one. Sad day.
Yeah. That was very sad. Because he's one of my favorites. I loved all of his kooky, like, just his the personality they brought was really good. But
yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's like Tass like heard the bones crunch. It's like it seems pretty final. So
Yeah.
I mean, later on, there's like a thing like at the very very end that we'll talk about, but right
but
now,
that's all we hear from Tass then until that very end.
yeah.
We don't know how he
So,
got out of where he's at and was
nope.
reunited, which is
Just
one of
that
the weird things.
Fizban exploded into feathers after hitting the ground, and
Yeah.
him and I keep forgetting the Gully Dwarf's name. Seston. Him and Seston
Survived.
don't die by fall damage, but I guess Pyros just decided I must have got him, and leaves because he shows up later, but he's not like. Oh no, that's right. He melted the chain. He sees them fall. Then I'm pretty sure he just bounces. He's like, "Ha, got him," and then he leaves. Okay, so yeah, that checks out.
Yep.
So the next chapter.
No, we're still in the same. We're still in the same chapter, man.
Are we?
Yeah.
I thought White Feathers was where it ended.
It should have been.
What happens after that?
So then it goes back to our people, and they're like meeting in the courtyard. With the like the men of the mines are being released too, and then we go to Eben, who's running into the mines because he's trying to get the green gemstone man for Pyros. And this is when like Satanus looks around and Sturm, he's like, he says to Sturm, "Where's Eben?" And he's like, "Last I saw him, he was running to the mines." And then Tanis is like, he's the traitor.
Yep. He's
so
the guy.
They finally put all the pieces together. It is, in fact, Eben. And then Eben runs into the mines to find the green gemstone man, which he finds him. And he's like, there's going to be fighting. We're going to get away. So then they're running together. And then it goes back to Verminard. And see, this is... Okay. They're so choppy sometimes. These chapters, where it's cutting back and forth, and it's like...
There's a lot going on in these. Like, there's so many different scene changes in these last chapters.
Yeah.
But so it goes back to Verminard, and this is when...
And he's like, where is Ember? Why is it taking him so long
to deal with an old dude and a Kender?
So when he finally comes back, they mount up, and then they go off to fight. But no, he's not wearing the dragon saddle because they're not actually going to have to fight. They're just going to burn everyone in the courtyard, all these slaves.
Right.
That's their plan.
Of course. As one does.
Yeah.
And so they emerge, right? Or is that next chapter? When they emerge and Tanis is like, oh, they didn't leave.
So then there's still... Oh my gosh, there's still more in this chapter. What is the deal? Sturm's trying to get everyone to calm down so that they can like have an organized retreat. It's just
right. He's like losing his voice because no one's listening because it's pandemonium.
And then they see the High Dragon Lord or Dragon High, whatever his title is, and the dragon come out, and then they see Eben and the guy running, and this is where they go to stop Eben, and they're trying to attack him. So Sturm grabs Eben, and the green gemstone man's shirt is open and they can see the gemstone, and Raceland's like, whoa, this is weird, never seen this before. And then because Barum stopped Sturm, that's what happened. I was like, why is Barum... So Barum's the green gemstone man, so Sturm's like trying to murder Eben because he's ticked off, rightfully so, and then Barum stops Sturm, and then the stone is revealed and everyone's like, what is happening, who is this person? And then they just like Sturm steps back and Tanis steps back, and they just let them go because they're like, something weird is going on here.
Right, I forgot about that. I forgot about that little interaction.
Yeah, I was confusing it with because later on Gold Moon steps in the middle of the fight, and I was thinking it was that moment, but it's not. So we have two weird gemstone moments. Separate. So I think you're spot on that Barum is probably like another kind of Gold Moon character of some kind.
Just for a different deity.
Yeah.
So now does the chapter end?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Because this is where Mataflor sees that Pyros is going to attack her children, and she attacks him. because she's like, no,
See,
man.
the next chapter is called "The Dragon High Lord and Madafleur's Children." So I thought that happened in that
Yeah.
chapter.
Well,
So
most of it happens in that chapter. She does get an
right.
attack in on this one, and this is where Pyros ends up like flipping over, and so Verminard falls and lands on his feet.
So I just thought it was
Yeah.
funny when Madafleur comes out and attacks Ember because Ember is about to roast everyone, kids included, and like
Yes.
the Dragon High Lord says like explicitly, "We're gonna kill all of them, even the kids." And then Madafleur flips out.
Yeah.
And also, I thought it was funny that they noted that he didn't wear the saddle. And then when Madafleur attacks Pyros and they go flying, I was like, "Oh, there's no way he's staying on that dragon."
Nope. And he definitely, which is good. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He does fall. Yep.
Realistic. So he does fall, and then so in the next chapter, which like I said, chapter 15, the Dragon High Lord and Madafleur's Children, we get the cool, like cue the Western music, like the standoff music with the Dragon High Lord and the adventuring group. This is like the boss
And
music plays.
yeah, and he's straight up owning them.
No, he kind of mops for them for a little bit there.
I
makes
was
sense.
like, well, he takes Raceland out like right away.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool because okay, here's the thing. So okay, one, yes, we got to see like they like give kind of like silent acknowledgement and respect to each other as they're about to fight. And the Dragon High Lord has like this mace which is called Nightbringer. And it's like such a metal name for a mace. It's like and he's got like this black armor and his dragon helmet on and he's super cool looking. And they start fighting and he just immediately just touches Raceland and Raceland drops.
He says something as he's touching him, but yeah,
Right.
and then he's like,
I know what
out.
the spell is.
Do you?
Because here's the thing about clerics. Clerics are characters in D&D that are typically healers, right? Like Gold Moon, but they also have spells that are kind of like Uno reverse. They're like anti-clerics, and so there's a spell called Inflict Wounds, which is a touch spell. You have to touch the person, but if you touch them, you inflict wounds on them without even having to like manually do it. So it's
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, he touched Raceland, cast inflict wounds. He got a crit, and Raceland drops.
Yep.
Like Raceland does not even get a spell off. It's
Nope.
kind of sad. But
And Karaman doesn't get any hits in either because then he makes him go blind, essentially. And Karaman is like so shocked that he can't even attempt anything.
he just goes midnight, and
Yeah.
then it goes black for people when he swings his mace. So then it's pretty much just Tannis and Sturm that are the only ones that can even kind of fight, and
Yep.
they get pretty thoroughly owned. Also, like it's looking pretty bad. He's soloing the entire group right now.
Yeah. I mean, he throws Tannis down. The Sturm tries to like do the salami night thing of like,
He tries to salute
Salute
with his
him.
sword.
and Verminard's like, whatever, and takes him out while he's doing that.
Yeah.
And he's like about to finish off Sturm. He's saying something in salami.
Right.
I feel bad. I can't
And
actually
he,
salamnik.
Salamnik. And it
And he's like about to deal the finishing blow, and then Gold Moon grabs Verminard, and he's like, suddenly it's the Dark Queen, and she's like seeing a god, which is confusing. So I'm not sure if it's because Gold
It's like-
Moon is
it's almost like they're both like avatars for the specific deities that they worship and
Yes.
represent. And then in that moment when they made contact, it was like the Dark Queen actually saw they actually saw each other like the gods did. And then the Dark Queen was like, "Oh, I wasn't ready for this."
yeah.
And the Dark Queen leaves and runs, right?
And
so it's kind of
abandons.
like so it's kind of like Verminard was abandoned by his
Oh,
deity.
straight up he was, because then he tries to do some magic and it doesn't work.
Yeah. And then he gets just stabbed multiple times by Tannis and Sturm. Like they just he goes down after that.
I mean, he does. I do want to say that he does also cast Midnight on Riverwind, which works. But Riverwind is still like with it enough to deal some blows. He's not quite
think
like Harriman.
Right, I
He,
think it was like he cast Midnight on Riverwind, and Riverwind's like, whatever, and he just like aims for the general direction of Verminard and still hits.
yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, he just wasn't quite as bothered by it.
Yep.
But then this is the cool part, the part that like I got a little emotional for this old lady dragon.
Yeah.
After they take out Verminard, then we get to see Madafleur fight Pyros, and it's very much like Pyros is like the better fighter, but Madafleur has the experience on him and is like much more agile and quick, and so they're kind of at a draw for a little bit, but eventually, Pyros does kind of have the edge, and it looks like he's about to take it, and he just breathes dragon fire into her face and is like melting her face as she flies toward him at like ridiculous speeds.
And then he
But,
realizes that she got him against the edge of the mountain, and he can't
Yeah.
get away.
And she like makes impact with him, and they both, and her face is like gone. Like she knew that this was suicide because he'd roasted her head, but the impact of her body against his forces him, and she basically like rams him into a mountain peak or like something like that, right? Or some kind of hard jagged surface, and they both get taken out. So she
Yep.
goes out like a champ,
She does.
taking out Fizban's killer. So
And she goes down in legend, which is kind of cool.
yeah, that was so. Oh, that's the part where I got emotional when they were like,
know.
when they talk about Flame Strike in Legends fighting with Pyros and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, she got down in the history books for that one.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Flame Strike is such a cool dragon name.
It really
Like,
is.
that
She's
is so cool.
She's awesome. And then, last little bit, we have the epilogue, the wedding.
Right, and that's the end of the book, guys. That's the last actual chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of falling action there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But no, we get the wedding.
Where Elliston, who Goldmoon had saved, performs the wedding ceremony for Goldmoon and Riverwind. They get married. It's very sweet. They do finally get their relationship sorted out, and it's not as like weird and
They decide to kind of like,
confusing.
yeah, they decide to like do their own thing and not do the tribe traditions because their tribe is super dead.
And super archaic.
Yeah. So they decide to like write their own vows, and they're kind of doing their own thing. And okay, so like Riverwind has a moment where he like kneels down in front of Goldmoon because that's like the custom of their tribe, and she's like, "No, don't do that." And he's like, "Is that a command?" And she's like, "It's the last command from the chieftain's daughter." It's like, "Oh, good. So now you're like gonna stop holding that over his head now." And
Good
he's
deal.
gonna like stop, and he's gonna stop complaining about how you're the chieftain's daughter. Like, you both need to stop complaining about this aspect of your lives.
For sure.
It's
Yes.
getting really annoying for everyone around you.
Yes.
Good grief.
Yeah. Yep. So they get that
Finally.
sorted out. And then we're at dinner, and Sturm and Tanis notice that there's a dude sitting off by himself, and he looks really familiar. And it's
Eating some wedding cake.
it's totally the green gemstone man. And then when they look again and they're gonna go confront him, he's gone.
Yeah.
So that's
Sweet.
shady.
So we don't actually know what happened to Eben.
Because they thought that, well, they were like, oh, I was sure that I saw both of them die. Like, they saw Eben die, but not this guy. But he's also known as the Everman. So I'm thinking immortal, like Goldmoon seems to be.
Right, like can't die.
Yeah.
Revivify. That's another spell.
Yeah, I don't know.
So-
So that's a bit of a mystery. And then Tanis goes to talk to Raceland, who is just as depressing as ever. And he's so depressing, and Tass followed Tanis, and even Tass gets a little down in the dumps because of Raceland's bad attitude.
And Tass is so excited too. He's like, finally, I get to hear what Tanis and Raceland talk about. I've never been
Yeah.
able to do this before. And he like sneaks up behind him and starts listening to him. And he's like, oh,
This
is
sucks.
you're so serious and like, ugh,
So
gross.
sad.
Because Raceland is like, you do realize there's going to be like 100 dragons now, and like we don't have any dragon lances, and Fizban's toast, and
Yeah.
we've got a girl with a talisman. Like,
Yep. And then it ends with Tass seeing a chicken feather.
yeah, So he's just like Tass is contemplating life and is getting all depressed and like, we're all gonna die. And then a little chicken feather floats in front of his face. So, is Fizban gone? I hope not, because I loved that guy. Is he going to be Gandalf the White?
Ooh.
Is he going to come back?
Ooh.
I was sent back until my task is done. Also, I never got to know if my theory was confirmed that he was the old guy in the beginning.
Right.
That like
You're
set
right.
up their meeting.
It was not confirmed.
I guess maybe someday, if I pick up the series again, I'll find out.
I have them. I'll probably start reading the next one.
Yeah. So overall, my overall thoughts, I would probably grade this book like a 7 out of 10. And I would say there were just some character things that didn't work for me, like any of the romantic relationships. But there were other characters that made it worth the read, like with Fizban and Tass and Flint and like...
And the gully dwarf that... Boo-poo.
Boo-poo. Boo-poo. Oh, if Boo-poo had come back at the end somehow, this book would have been a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, there was some weird stuff with that. Like there was some weird transition stuff. Things that I guess we were just like assumed to have known, but like didn't. And there are some things that we never really got answers on, which I get that is a book in a series, so we can't really judge it based on what's revealed that maybe the authors wanted to wait to reveal later. But there were some, like, the Gem Man. I wish we got to learn a little more about him so that we actually like cared.
Yeah, that was like totally, I think, just thrown in at the end so that you would read the next book.
Yeah, it felt really shoehorned. Mm-hmm. Felt really shoehorned in. Yeah, so I'd say that's my overall ranking.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. I ranked it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. But I think a 7 is if it was out of 10, I probably would have given it a 7 as well for the same reasons that you listed.
Like it passes. It's a passing grade.
Oh yeah. I obviously would read it again. I did.
Right.
But also, my rating as a young person would have been like, this book is awesome. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But now it's like, there were some things that are a little confusing and, but still a good read. Like still entertaining for sure.
I think I would be more inclined to pick up the books that are about the twins specifically.
They're good. I remember this one being good too, but I remember more from the twin books. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe if I pick up a Dragonlance book again, it might be the twins one. But I keep seeing it suggested to me now on Audible. So
yeah.
Anyway, but I'm still reading Wheel of Time on Audible, so I've started the 4th one.
Wow.
Yay.
Nice. Very good.
So yeah. So for the next time, I hope you guys have gotten your copy of The Blade itself
by Joe Abercrombie.
And it's the first book in the First Law trilogy, and we are going to start plugging away on that. And next time, do you have a reading? Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to read through you're going to read to The Morning Ritual is the name of the title.
So that is where they stop reading, or they need to read The Morning Ritual?
No, do not read The Morning Ritual. Once you hit the reading morning... Wow. Once you hit The Morning Ritual, stop.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that first section.
Sounds good. I'm excited. Excited to dive into a whole new world.
Yeah. It'll be good.
So, that was Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
Yes.
Title still doesn't really make that much sense to me either.
But well, it's happening in the autumn, obviously.
And there's dragons. Yeah, okay. I guess.
Well, Autumn Twilight, it's like that's the literal season that they're in, but they're also at like the twilight of the elves. Like the elves are leaving, things are dying. They're getting into winter. Dragons are showing up. It works.
I guess. Only barely, but I guess. Okay.
I should have called it Boo Poo's story. All about Boo Boo and Fizzban. If those two had been in the same chapter together.
Oh, wow.
That would have been lovely.
Yeah. High Lord Fudge, the first degree.
The second.
Was the actual big bad of this book.
For real, though.
All right, y'all.
Oh, gosh.
Till next time, happy reading.
We'll talk at you next time.
Bye.
Bye.